So Netflix just released a show about a girl who turns into a chicken nugget, and that sounds ridiculous, but after I saw screenshots like this, I knew I needed to watch this for myself. It sort of reminds me of that trend from last year where a bunch of people were asking their partners like, hey babe, would you still love me if I was a worm? And their partner sweats and just says yes, because of course not, but you can't say that to your girlfriend, and luckily the chances of her turning into a worm are really low, but apparently not impossible, because for this guy, the girl he likes did in fact turn into a chicken nugget. Now, I've seen this entire show now, and let me tell you, no matter what assumptions you may have about a story where a girl turns into a chicken nugget, you are not prepared for the insanity. Now, before I get into the actual plot of the show, I do want to preface that this is a K-drama, and it is actually the first K-drama I've ever watched from start to finish. So I am going to be giving most characters nicknames, and it's not because I'm trying to disrespect their name, it's just I'm not confident I can pronounce them correctly. And if there's anything I missed culturally that you think is relevant to the story that I didn't understand, please let me know in the comments so I can, learn. In fact, just recommend me some other wacky, weird K-dramas, because after this, I really want to watch more. The show opens up on our main character, Baek-jung, who for the sake of this video, we are going to dub Loverboy. He's dancing down the street, singing a song that he's writing himself, wearing these super bright colored clothing, and even though people are stopping to stare at him because he's kind of making a fool of himself, he doesn't care. He just smiles and goes on about his day because he knows who he is. A true Sigma male.
왜 자꾸 쳐다보냐?
그러고 있는데 어떻게 안 보냐?
그러네.
He's currently interning at a mechanical engineer lab under our other main character, Seon-man, who for the sake of this video, we will be dubbing Boss Daddy. They have a friendly co-worker relationship. They're not particularly close or anything, but they do spend all day laughing about how terrible their job is and how little they get paid.
비전도 없고 월급도 쥐똥만한 회사에 출근하면서 좋을 게 뭐가 있겠습니까? 그냥 인사말이지.
Which, if you know anyone who works in STEM, is probably the most accurate depiction of a tech workplace ever put to film. Now, I wouldn't say Loverboy and Boss Daddy are friends, they're more just co-workers and have a boss-employee relationship, but Loverboy does want to impress Boss Daddy not just because he's his manager, but because he's madly in love with his daughter, Min-ah, who for the sake of this video, spoilers, henceforth shall be known as Nugget Girl. And while he's madly smitten with her and she's way out of his league, he still is making an effort playing her music, but she makes it very clear what she wants out of their relationship and what she's looking for in a potential partner.
첫째는 착한 마음씨,
착한 마음씨.
둘째는 호불호 없이 누가 봐도 잘생긴 얼굴, 셋째는 어른 섹시 몸매야.
This ties into one of the main themes of the show, which is loving someone for who they are on the inside versus their outward physical appearance. It's a really great moral and a terrible message for a show about chicken nuggets, since the inside of chicken nuggets are just chicken paste and ground up organs. No, maybe they make chicken nuggets different in Korea and I don't know that, but all the chicken nuggets in this show are perfectly spherical, and there is no way in hell that is natural. Nugget Girl has come to the machine lab to have lunch with her father, and on that same day, a mysterious machine was delivered to the front doorstep of the lab. Thinking it was a delivery by one of their clients, Loverboy brings it inside, unwraps, and just sort of sets it up. And in probably one of the most relatable moments in this show, in an attempt to get closer with Nugget Girl, Loverboy goes on a 5-minute rant about fast food and why the brand of chicken nuggets she brought, Baek-jung fried chicken, is superior to every other brand. He talks about the process and how they make the fried chicken. He talks about the better ingredients, the better sauce, the whole shebang. And as someone who tries to pick up women by talking about my favorite fast food chains, let me tell you, it doesn't work. For me at least, it seems to actually go pretty well for him.
백중 씨는 자기 얼굴이 아니라 상대방 눈을 바꾼달까? 뭔가 그런 걸 열심히 하고 있어요.
송구스럽지만 너무 어렵네요.
잘 생각해 봐요.
For whatever reason, when Nugget Girl sees this mysterious machine in the corner, her first thought is, Oh shit, let me get in that. So she gets inside, presses the button, and the last thing she sees before the machine activates is a chicken nugget, which she exclaims out loud, and poof, she's now a chicken nugget. That is the entire lead up to her turning into a chicken nugget. I thought this was gonna be like a magic curse or something. No, it's just an unnamed machine. I guess we're getting right into the meat of the show. Naturally, Loverboy is confused on what the hell just happened, and when Boss Daddy comes in looking for his daughter, Loverboy has no choice to tell him, dude, she turned into a chicken nugget. And for whatever reason, Boss Daddy immediately believes him. Like, he just accepts this as fact, like, oh, dude, I was worried about that.
미나 씨, 왜 자꾸 불러보세요? 뭐? 사장님이 미나 씨를 불러보세요. 대답할 수도 있잖아요. 미쳤나? 뭐라도 할 수 있는 걸 해봐야죠. 어서요.
미나야.
There's at least a million questions you should be asking about a human being, much less your daughter, turning into a chicken nugget. How did she turn into a chicken nugget? How long has she been a chicken nugget? How does she taste? No, wait, sorry, I take that last one back. This is why I could not be in this situation, because I would give it maybe 12 hours until I eat my friend. Now, you may think that's really cruel of me, but it's a mercy compared to what she's about to go through being taken care of by these two bumbling idiots. Because Loverboy and Boss Daddy are the worst chicken nugget caretakers in the world. Because once the two of them stop screaming at the nugget to turn back into a human, they decide to try and figure out where the machine came from. So they go to make calls to the delivery company, and they just leave Nugget Girl out on the kitchen table next to the regular fried chicken nuggets where anyone could just walk by and eat her. Sure enough, when they come back, their co-worker is sitting at the table and the nuggets are nowhere to be seen. Which is their cue to cut to one of the many freakout sequences throughout this show.
세상에서 가장 소중한 것을 잃었을 때 당신은 그것을 퍼포먼스라고 표현하는가? 당신 눈으로 똑똑히 봐. 저기 할아버지의 부성이 보이지 않는가? 여기 이 한 남자의 순정이 보이지 않는가?
It's sort of like that project in school where teachers are trying to show how hard it is to take care of babies, and so they give students like an egg to take care of. Did anyone actually do that, or is that like a myth made up by TV shows to move plots forward? You know, like, oh, really caring who prom king and queen are, or quicksand, or taxes. Now, when I started watching the show Chicken Nugget, I really expected it to just be off the walls, XD, so random! But it's surprisingly, like, super emotional. Because when they think that Nugget Girl has been eaten, Boss Daddy has a flashback that is a very genuine montage of him raising Nugget Girl as a single father where the mother has passed away, and how hard he's had to work watching her grow up throughout the years. And I deadass started tearing up and crying at the show where a girl turns into a chicken nugget. I'm tearing up now thinking about it. It has no right to be this good. But don't worry, Nugget Girl is fine. The coworker explains like, hey man, I'm not a dick. I wouldn't eat someone else's lunch. Come on. Which basically means he's a better person than like 99% of Americans. I'm talking about you, Sam. You know who you are. It's a good thing that Nugget Girl is safe, but of course now they have a bigger issue, which is they don't know which chicken nugget is actually their friend slash daughter and which ones are just a tasty treat. Once again, I don't know if I'd be able to resist like eating one. Because out of 16, like your odds are pretty good that you just eat a chicken nugget. That's all I'm saying. Eventually, Boss Daddy and Loverboy realize, wait a second, we have security cameras. We can just check and physically see who delivered the package and when. And they actually recognize who dropped the machine off as the owner of a local chicken nugget store, Nobleman Chicken, who is the rival store of Bake Jung Chicken Nuggets, the brand that Nugget Girl brought earlier. That's right, you started watching this show for one thing and one thing only: chicken nugget drama! Or not, since they tracked down the owner. It turns out he got hit by a car the night he dropped the machine off. Since their prime lead has been murdered, they sort of go back to the lab to just sort of figure out next steps, where they get super lucky because their delivery driver recognizes the machine that transformed Nugget Girl. He says when he used to work as a lab technician, he worked under a man named Professor Yu, who is one of the best scientists in all of the world, and he was studying the machine for years before he mysteriously disappeared 2 years ago. And now Boss Daddy and Loverboy are realizing that between Professor Yu disappearing 2 years ago and the nobleman chicken nugget guy getting murdered, there might be a huge conspiracy to uncover with this machine. But before they look into that any further, we should probably figure out, hey, which nugget is my daughter? It's been about like 36 hours since she's been turned into a chicken nugget, and I have to say it really feels like they're half-assing this investigation. Like, all they've really done so far is make a single phone call, check the security cameras, and then realize someone has died. Like, they still have the machine, and they can just start throwing random garbage into it to see what happens and see if they can untransform stuff, but they never think to use the machine again throughout the entire series, except for one time where Loverboy is like, wait, if I go in here, could I become ripped? And it doesn't work, so he just gives up. But seriously, if the delivery driver had never shown up and told them about Professor Yu, what would they have done? You know, actually, if we count losing track of which nugget used to be human, they've actually made negative progress, because instead of that, they, no joke, go out for chicken nuggets. They actually go out to get the same brand of chicken nuggets that Nugget Girl brought when she came to the lab. Their logic is that the workers are so good at making chicken nuggets that they'll be able to identify which of the 16 nuggets used to be human. The brand Baked Jung Chicken is going to play a large role in this story, so please remember it, because they even claim to have invented chicken nuggets 200 years ago. So you're telling me that they invented chicken nuggets 150 years before famed American food scientist Robert C. Baker, who is in the American Poultry Hall of Fame? And yes, the Poultry Hall of Fame is a real thing. There's magic everywhere. Loverboy and Boss Daddy enter the shop, but who would have guessed if you go into a random McDonald's and start yelling how your daughter turned into a chicken nugget, you get kicked out. And when they do, the chicken nuggets go flying everywhere. Because for whatever reason, they haven't thought to like put it in a Ziploc bag or Tupperware or something. One kid even takes a bite out of one of them, which of course leads to another freak out. Hey, if the nugget lands on my table, man, it's free game. This kid did nothing wrong. Eventually, though, another person comes and saves their asses. This famous food blogger who turns out to be Loverboy's ex-girlfriend. Boss Daddy is super confused by this because by the looks of it, she is young, gorgeous, intelligent, super successful, way out of Loverboy's league. And more than that, she wants to get back together, and he doesn't. He asks Loverboy what happened, and they cut to a flashback, much to Boss Daddy's dismay. When they first started dating, they got along really well because she's super attracted to him physically, because he has a chubby belly and nice lips, and they're both really into food. But she would also berate him for some of his more food hot takes, like liking mint chocolate ice cream or liking pineapple on pizza, and eventually they broke up after a big argument. And am I weird in saying that that is like a perfectly valid reason to break up with someone? I would fully dump someone if they said Twizzlers are better than Red Vines. Like, is that weird? I just don't think I could ever be with a Twizzler person. Loverboy's issue with getting back together is more just, you want me to change? That's who I am, and because of that, you were really mean to me. I don't think this would be a healthy relationship, and that's very valid. But it does mean he's gonna have to get on his hands and knees and beg her to help identify which chicken nugget used to be human. Sure, why not? Having accomplished their goal of figuring out which nugget they actually need to protect, Boss Daddy and Loverboy come to the realization that, oh my god, we are terrible at this, so they decide to build some sort of like super Tupperware to keep her safe. For whatever reason, Loverboy decides that this is the best time to tell Boss Daddy, yo, I'm madly in love with your daughter, even though she turned into a chicken nugget on my watch and she almost got eaten twice while I was trying to take care of her. And Boss Daddy goes like, okay, cool man, I really really don't care right now. Now, they do grow a bit closer because they talk about their hopes and dreams, and Boss Daddy discovers that Loverboy really wanted to pursue music, but instead his father, who very much disapproved, wanted him to go into mechanical engineering. And as a way of sort of rebelling, he started wearing this super bright colored clothing. Between that and learning why he doesn't want to get together with his ex-girlfriend, Boss Daddy actually really comes to respect Loverboy in this situation. It's a genuinely sweet moment and I really liked it, but Jesus Christ, there are more pressing matters at hand. This really isn't the time to talk about your hopes and dreams. Right now, the only real clue to the origins of the machine is Professor Yu, so Boss Daddy decides he's gonna go investigate that and leaves Loverboy to take care of the Nugget. We cannot leave this unguarded. And despite Nugget Girl not being able to move or communicate, Loverboy still realizes that he cares for her. In fact, he can imagine an entire life together and getting married, even if she never turns into a human again.
어머, 자꾸 이런 데 돈 쓴다, 백중 씨. 킹사이즈 통계가 얼마나 비싼데.
너무 잘 어울린다.
내가 뭐라고 맨날.
뭐긴요. 세상에서 제일 예쁜 닭강정이지.
This rush of emotion inspires Loverboy to write and sing the Nugget a song and post it on YouTube. Because, you know, we all need people to like and subscribe to our videos. Right down there. Meanwhile, Boss Daddy has managed to track down one of Professor Yu's assistants, so they both go out to have dinner, and they discover that this machine is supposedly 200 years old and made of a material not from this planet. Which would be important if these two bozos didn't leave the Nugget unguarded in their lab. Because sure enough, someone breaks in, steals the machine, and steals Nugget Girl. At a certain point, you guys have no one to blame but yourselves. You keep leaving this helpless chicken nugget unguarded and then are surprised when nature tries to take its course. The thief turns out to be Professor Yu's nephew, who was studying the machine alongside his uncle when Professor Yu disappeared. We also see in his secret lab that he has, what's this? A second machine. And he's been trying to track down this other one for years. His backstory is that when he was younger, he was this super honor student whiz kid, but by the time he reached high school, he was just sort of burnt out and mentally ill, which to be fair is like 80% of gifted kids in middle school. And it didn't help that by the time he was 15, he looked like a 40-year-old man your parents don't want you sitting next to on a bus. Or that he has a super hot douchebag brother who now works as a professional model. So his plan is to use these machines to transform into his brother, kill him, and steal his life. Which is a decent enough plan, but why did you have to steal the machine? You could have just used it at the lab and everything would have been fine. In fact, no, wait. Why did you steal the chicken nugget in the first place? He knew that the chicken nugget was their daughter and used to be human. You didn't have to take it. You could have just left their daughter there and they have a weird sort of memento and they could put her on a shelf and just be sad. But no, you decided to kidnap the nugget just to piss them off. That's so cruel. You never steal another man's fried chicken. What would that coworker from earlier say to you? Before he can actually activate the machine and transform himself though, the machine activates on its own and Professor Yu pops out of nowhere. Professor Yu, now being a human again and having somehow witnessed all of this, invites Boss Daddy and Loverboy to the secret lab so that he can actually explain the origins of the machine, what's going on, and how this all ties together. Only for Boss Daddy to show up, locked and loaded with a gun, and just starts blasting without any hesitation.
처음 보는 과일인데 이렇게 먹는 겁니다. 사장님, 뭐 하는 짓입니까? 진정하세요. 고사와, 우리 미나 챙겨.
This is about the halfway mark in the series, and it's also where the show just goes off the fucking rails insane. Which is bizarre to say about a show where a girl turns into a chicken nugget, but I just want to tell you because I'm going to be rearranging a lot of the information we get to make it more understandable. And just prepare yourself. Boss Daddy is intent on killing Professor Yu and the nephew because he's like, hey man, you kidnapped my nugget daughter. That's mean. And nephew is like, oh dude, I'm so sorry, you know, but hey, I found Jesus. I'm not a holy man, but amen. Which works? For some reason, I need to write that down as a get out of free card if I'm ever getting mugged. Now that Boss Daddy has calmed down and put away the gun, the four of them can actually sit down, talk, have some tea, and figure out what the fuck these machines are. Professor Yu sits down and explains that he discovered both machines from ancient drawings that are 200 years old, and that for the past 2 years, he had accidentally turned himself into a caterpillar, which is why he hasn't been around. See, one of these machines has the ability to transform people into something, and the other machine undoes the transformation. It wasn't until his nephew had both machines in one place that he was able to untransform himself. Oh, cool, we have a machine that can untransform people. How about we untransform my daughter now? And Professor Yu says no, because I'm gonna use the machines to contact aliens. And then he drugs Boss Daddy and Loverboy and chains them up to a bed. The origin of the machines is that they're 200 years old and they did in fact come from aliens, more specifically terrible purple CG PS1 graphic aliens who use them to turn into humans. The way the machines work is that they turn you into the last thing you saw, which explains why Nugget Girl transformed into a chicken nugget. But this also feels like the worst possible way you can build a transformation machine. Like, I understand that the aliens want to turn into humans to sort of walk among them, but why have it be activated via sight? What if a bee flies in front of your eyes right before the machine works? I guess you're just a bee now. What if I'm in the machine and I turn to the right and I see a shelf? Am I just a shelf now? How come when Loverboy tried to use the machine earlier, it didn't work? Is it because he didn't see someone? But he should see something, right? What happens if I blink? Do I turn into darkness? Do I turn into my own eyelids? I need to know the hard rule set for these chicken nugget machines. When one of the local villagers sees these machines, he hatches a plan to turn into one of the high-ranking nobles, turn the noble into a rock, and then just take his place. Now that the nobleman has taken the machines for himself, the four aliens that originally transformed into humans have been trapped on Earth for the past 200 years, unable to untransform. So what do they do with all that time? Open a chicken nugget store, of course. That's right, Bake Jung Chicken Nuggets, the store from earlier that kicked them out. All of the workers there are aliens, which you can see because they have this disgusting scene where they pig out on raw chicken.
야, 똥집이다. 생똥집이다.
But I also have to ask, it's established that this store is like a year old, so what the fuck were they doing for the other 199 years on Earth? It also feels like this is a terrible plan if you can't go back to your ship unless you look exactly the same as you did when you left it. Now, when they open up their popular chicken nugget store, their rival chain, Nobleman Chicken Nuggets, comes in to complain. He's like, hey man, you opened this up right across the street, you're biting into my business. And they get into a big fight. While there, he sees this picture up on the wall of them using the machine to transform chickens into chicken nuggets. And it turns out that he's a descendant of the guy from earlier who originally stole the machine and that he still has it in his apartment. But I have some serious questions about this. I thought the point of these machines was to turn aliens into humans. At what point did they use these machines to turn chickens into nuggets? Doesn't the chicken have to see the nugget? So someone would have had to make a chicken nugget first before you transform the chicken into it. It's also been established that Nugget Girl is still alive. We see the chicken nugget move at one point, and we see imagery like this that implies that she's still conscious even as a chicken nugget. So are they eating chickens live? And if the chicken has to see a nugget to transform into it, that also implies that chickens understand the concept of a chicken nugget, which is terrifying because the human equivalent of that is just human meat battered in babies. And for the record, this will never be talked about again. Anyways, the nobleman goes back home because he realizes, oh, if I have this machine, I can turn chickens into nuggets and my business will be a success. So he puts a chicken in, and instead of turning into a nugget, it turns into a zombie feral chicken, which has never been a function established that these machines can do. And it is, once again, never mentioned again how this happened. Since he really wants the machine to work though, he decides to take it to an expert and brings the machine to Boss Daddy's lab in the middle of the night. Realizing that, hey, if I just tell them it turns chickens into zombies, they'll never believe me. So he goes home to collect evidence, which is when he's hit by a car driven by the aliens. The aliens are distraught now because not only have they just killed a human, which is taboo, they also have no way of getting their machines back now. That isn't until they see Loverboy's video of him singing Chicken Nugget Rhapsody to Nugget Girl. And what's that in the background? It's the machine.
어차피 거의 다 먹었다.
야 씨바 그만해. 나 진짜 유명인 되면 좆대.
이것들이 맨날 웨이팅 오지니까 눈에 뵈는 게 없네.
So they track them down to the lab. Now, I do want to say that as much as I enjoyed this goofy-ass show, the plot is garbage. There are so many plot holes and threads left unanswered that it feels like we're just abandoned. Because it felt like for a little bit they were hinting that Nugget Girl would be able to eventually move around and speak, and then that just is never talked about. It also feels like the purpose of the machine was just to turn things into chicken nuggets for a while, but that was another plot thread that was abandoned just for a broad transform into anything. There's even a whole episode dedicated to Loverboy going to this old abandoned bookstore to find Professor Yu's books, but it's literally never relevant to the plot, so I just cut it out. And I think a lot of that is because it's adapted from a webtoon or Korean comic, also called manhwa. Now, this is just my experience with Korean comics, but a lot of the time they're done by independent artists, and because of that, they don't really have editors or people to give a lot of feedback. So while they have a lot of very unique and cool concepts, like a story about a girl transforming into a chicken nugget, they tend to be really rough around the edges and poorly paced. Now that the aliens have arrived, it's a standoff between the three groups: Loverboy and Boss Daddy, Professor Yu and his nephew, and the 4 aliens. Each of them want the machines, and they're trying to figure out what's gonna happen. So they decided the only way they possibly can: Mortal Kombat. It launches into this chaotic action sequence where the 4 aliens, not trying to harm any more humans, are just trying to scare them by pretending to be fire, pretending to be a missile, and pretending to be BTS.
BTS. 지구에서 BTS는 아무도 못 건드려. BTS.
I'm not going to talk about it ever again in this video, but I did just want to point out there's a robot dog, and robot dogs, that's pretty cool. Eventually, Boss Daddy and Loverboy emerge victorious, but they're faced with a huge dilemma. The machines only have 1 charge left for some reason. So they now have the choice where they could turn Nugget Girl back into a human and doom all 4 aliens to stay here forever, or let the aliens go home to their families since they have been here for 200 years. Now, you may be asking yourself, why don't the aliens just, I don't know, get another machine? And they could, but one day on their home planet is 50 years on ours. So by the time they got back to turn Nugget Girl back into a human, 50 years would have passed, and Boss Daddy would probably, you know, pass away.
우리 미나밖에 없는데. 우리 미나랑 살고 있었잖아.
Terrible machine design on the aliens' part, because by my count they've only used the de-transformation mechanic once, and there are 4 aliens, which means at most only 2 aliens would ever be able to untransform. Also, why not just give it an outlet so it could charge or something? Why have it be limited charges in the first place? The decision is left up to Boss Daddy since, you know, he is the girl's father and he did win that right in Mortal Kombat. And through tears, he decides that he'd rather everyone get a happy ending, even if it means the chances of him ever seeing his daughter alive again are low. So he gives Nugget Girl to the alien to de-transform, go off, and come back in 50 years. He makes a vow that he will do everything within his power to be healthy so he can live another 50 years to see her again, and also tells Loverboy, hey dude, go pursue music, you're fired. And then we jump 50 years into the future. Now, I really do enjoy this show. It's a great comedy as long as you don't think too hard about the plot. I hate this ending. It is one of the worst endings to any show I've ever seen, and I love Game of Thrones. 50 years later, Loverboy is now the most popular musician in the world. He sells out concerts around the world. He's constantly getting invited to dine with royalty. And Boss Daddy is essentially a superhero because he's gotten so healthy, he can straight up jump over mountains.
안 죽어. 안 죽어. 안 죽어. 안 죽어.
They're excited because the 50-year timer is up. They're finally going to be able to see Nugget Girl again, and she's going to transform into human. So they agree to meet up, and Boss Daddy dies. He dies before he ever gets to meet Loverboy again. He dies before they get to see Nugget Girl, just in the car ride over. It's so sudden and unsatisfying, and for no reason. What point does this serve the plot of the show to just kill off my favorite character like this? After the funeral, Loverboy comes back and the alien is in his apartment, and it's bad news. It turns out that when he got to his home planet, after the whole debacle where they went missing, they destroyed every single transformation machine. So he was unable to turn Nugget Girl back into a human, and she's still a chicken nugget. Okay, cool. So the tear-jerking decision we made 50 years ago was just for nothing. No point, nothing happened. And the alien goes, yeah, shit, man, that kind of sucks. But how about this? I'll give you a time travel machine so you can go back in time to before she turned into a chicken nugget. The downside is it will erase all your memories. Now, I'm not an expert on time travel, but if it erases all of his memories, isn't he doomed to just keep repeating the same shit over and over again? She'll still turn into a chicken nugget. They'll freak out because they can't take care of her. She goes to space for 50 years with the alien, and then he time travels again. They're just going to be stuck in an endless loop. But that doesn't matter. He presses the button. We see her come with chicken nuggets again, and then the show just ends. I understand that at the end of the day, this show isn't that deep. It's a show about a girl who turns into a chicken nugget, and that's the novelty of it. And it's on me for expecting a well-written plot. But I don't need it to be well-written. I just want it to be satisfying. What about the 3 aliens who are also trapped on Earth? Why did Boss Daddy die suddenly? And why do we never get to see him reunite with Nugget Girl? I know, it's not a show for intellectuals. And yes, I am very frustrated by the ending. But honestly, it was a pretty fun show. I came for a show about a girl who gets transformed into a chicken nugget, and I got exactly that. If this video was at all entertaining for you, please go ahead down there, like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, helps me out. And check out the show for yourself. I did have to cut out a lot of the funniest bits and jokes from this show, like this waitress. This waitress is my favorite character in the show, and I wasn't able to show a ton of her very funny bits. So please go check out the show for yourself. Let me know what I should talk about next. Please let it have a more satisfying ending, and have a nice goddamn rest of your day.